like to introduce my interviewee of today, Ghadimi. So maybe start by telling me a little bit about yourself and the companies you have run.
Hey, great to be here. Well, it's a long list. I'm originally from Toronto and currently uh, living in Park City, right on the ski mountain. And so I guess to start off, I started my career. I guess you have to sort of include the family business, where I grew up and started working when I was 6 or 7. I'd say that was definitely my first job and first sort of career in the restaurants, 10, 12 years of it. So that was summers and weekends and after school. Um, and the truth is to get away from the family business, I launched a magazine. So when I got into business school, um, to be honest, I kind of was a little bit disappointed. I got into business school and I was like super excited to get to, I went to this awesome business school. But I don't know, I felt like it kind of, it was missing something. And so a big part of my career has been, if something's missing, I just kind of fill in the blank myself. In this case, I went to a great program and we were a whole bunch of young people and doing cases and talking about cases, but I felt like nobody had really any experiences. So I just kind of felt like everyone was just making things up. And I want to talk to people, actually kind of like you, Sedef, who were had a lot of experience and had a lot to say and I could learn from. And so I started a magazine and just went around interviewing CEOs. So that was my second business, my magazine that I launched in business school. And I got to meet, the founder of BlackBerry, 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and Second Cup, and these are all Canadian, well, mostly Canadian businesses. But I was just doing this in between classes, kind of jetting down to Waterloo to meet Jim Balsillie and jumping on a call with Brian Scudamore. And, these are like, world famous CEOs. And so it was super exciting. But anyway, from there, actually that magazine led me. I got into the media scene. I was going to all these great parties in Toronto, and I went to this magazine launch party, and went to get a drink at the bar, and that party was featured on the cover of that magazine. Was featured this man who essentially started Airbnb, but analog version. So before like Airbnb, non-internet version. So renting villas all over the world. This guy was like the king of this. So he has this incredible home in Jamaica called Roaring Pavilion. All top A-list actors and everything have been there. And so he was being featured, and we met at the bar, and we just really hit it off. And he's like, we met up after, for a very boozy lunch at Sassafras in Yorkville. And he's like, man, you're really cool, and I want to invest in your magazine. And I was like, nah, you don't want to invest in my magazine. And this is like, I'm like, I just did this to get away from like school and from like my family's business. Like, this is like, you don't want to do that. He's like, all right, well, what should we do? And I'm like, I don't know, what should we do? And so long story short, well, I hope my professors aren't listening to this, even though it's like 15 years later, but like I kind of skipped my like exams. And, I went to Ivy, where like, if you miss a day of school, like your friends would call you and think you had cancer. They're like, are you okay? Are you alive? And I skipped my exams because me and this guy and his business partners went to Cannes, in the south of France in December, this luxury trade show and party. Anyway, we went there, and we were kind of doing like quote unquote research. I'm like 20 years old, and these are all long stories, so I'm just gonna keep making them short. We came up with this idea of, I came up with this idea of starting a swimsuit business and high-end swimwear bikinis. And I had this whole idea that like, women's swimwear, you look on the inside of the swimsuit and it's the ugliest part is on the inside of the swimsuit, which, arguably is the most important part. It's like, I called it at the time, the most prized real estate on the body, So, so I'm like, we should put all the design there, not like this ugly inner lining crap, you gotta put like, let's put like butterflies. And, of course, this is like a lot of bottles of champagne and stuff later. And so he's like, I love it. And, his wife happened to be a former Miss France, the first Black Miss France, the first Black Miss of any sort of first world country. So this woman was like, she's a force, and so that was my second business, Vida del Sol, fashion swimwear. We launched it in Costa Rica and blew up, and we were in all the magazines and all that. Anyway, that kind of actually, we launched in Costa Rica, but actually took me back to the south of France. So I was back to Cannes, where it all sort of began. Living a block off the Croisette there, and then eventually I exited to them, and I really wasn't ready to move back to Canada. I was quite liking my French lifestyle, and so I moved to Paris, and got in touch with an alumni, a bunch of alumni actually from biz school, and one of them offered me a job at Danone Yogurts and Waters, so second biggest company in France. And anyway, that was a whole adventure in itself. A big thing I learned there was it was about culture. I mean, 2006, 7, Danone was talking about culture and how to create amazing places to work. Like, nobody was talking about this stuff. I mean, right now, yeah, everybody talks about it. There's these lists of best companies to work for, but that didn't really exist back then. But so Danone, like, they were really leading that, and I got a huge education with that, and came out and got really interested in turnarounds and going and fixing broken businesses, and it just kind of felt like this badass thing, like, this, nobody else could do it, but you come in and, turn this thing around, and using culture and team connection and all that. So, and then I did, ran one of the best known guitar retailers in the world, and big manufacturing facility. So that was another one, restaurants. And now my latest is I'm leading a roll up in the real estate industry. So anyway, that's kind of an overview of the some of the things I've done.
Wow. So you've lived quite the fun and experienced life. Very interesting.
Well, that's it. Yeah. I mean, as I was thinking about our conversation today, I started thinking about my values and the things that I value, and you just actually nailed it. It was fun, adventure, curiosity, creativity, and purpose. Actually, that I didn't really know that, but purpose was a big thing for me, and having a reason. More than just swimwear. For me, swimwear was about empowering women and making women feel beautiful from the inside out. Like, I could kind of care less about selling swimwear, but making people feel that way, that was interesting.
So you mentioned that you have been the leader of companies in various industries and some that you weren't familiar with. How did this unfamiliarity make you feel when you were running the companies?
Look, at first, always like a straight up imposter. Like, what am I doing here? It was one thing with the startups, like the swimwear and then publishing, but it was another thing when I started doing turnarounds, like established businesses. And my first big turnaround was a fiberglass manufacturing facility. I mean, man, I could barely get through high school chemistry. I still probably couldn't get through high school chemistry, and here I am, and oh my god, like okay, literally, I was like, I remember like getting on the plane from Denver to South Carolina and like Googling like, what's the first thing you do as a CEO? Kind of interesting what comes up. So really like jumping in the deep end and really not knowing. So that was the first thing, is an imposter. Like, people are going to find out, but actually people didn't have to find out that I know anything, because I just come out and say it. I mean, you can't really fake, your knowledge about, resins and fiberglass and water filters. Like, you
can't make that up.
Yeah, I can hustle, but I can't hustle that hard. So no, that would have been a stretch. And so I'd come out and say it, and actually, so I feel really humbled, actually. So first thing was impossible, but second was really humble, because I just come out and say, be like, look, I'm new to this game. I've actually been new to most of the games. So, and so it really made me open. And I think because I'm just so damn curious, I just like learning. I love to learn new things. And so I'd be very curious to learn. And I think that I think it's probably jarring a little bit. You imagine like your operations manager at this fiberglass facility. He's like, so you don't know anything about this? Like, I'm like, well, you do. So like, we're covered there. It's so yeah, I'd say humbled, and I feel like an imposter. I, I don't feel like an imposter anymore, actually, because I think one thing I've learned is you actually, if you come into something, especially the CEO, or not even necessarily some sort in any sort of leadership role, and you're curious and you want to learn and you ask a lot of questions and you're doing the work to learn, you can actually add a lot of value because you get people thinking about things that they just take for granted.
I think that's definitely something that a lot of young professionals would value, knowing the importance of being curious as well as vulnerable when in a new situation.
Man, nobody expects you. I mean, whether you're, yeah, like I remember when we did Vida Soul, like the first thing I did, I was 21 years old, 22, and it was me and Miss France and John and big personalities, very successful people. And so I didn't pretend to be something that I'm not, but what I was interested and curious, and I wanted to learn. And so I surrounded a lot of the people that I hired actually were it's interesting, actually. You might find this interesting. What I did, like the organizational structure, was I hired a lot of young, really passionate people about like our PR person was a girl who was just like crazy about fashion and magazines and and had really good taste and style, Miriam. And then our merchandiser, or someone who had some years experience, but was just like, man, she just worked 100 hours a week. But then I paired them with these consultants that we'd hire who had like 30 years experience in the industry. And what was interesting was having that tension, that contrast of hyper passion, but pretty green, like, not knowing a lot, but then with people with a lot of experience. It gave us a really great mix of innovation, creative ideas, and then also, some tried and true approaches. So somewhere in the mix, we
Mhm.
came up with really good ideas that worked. So it's really valuable, actually, not knowing, especially if you're willing to admit it and just really willing to work hard and learn.
Sure. So, what is one thing that scares you about being a CEO and having that much uh, power in your hands?
Well, I could tell you what scared me in the past was, I think, just what I mentioned about being an imposter and just coming in and not knowing, like, and these people, once I remember I did a turnaround on a big construction site in Jamaica. And like, I remember everyone was complaining about, there's 100 people on the site, all these engineers and all these different people. And they're like, and I'm like the boss now because this thing was like not like 2 years delayed. I remember the first thing I asked was like, what's resin? I mean, that's just like asking what's a hammer, It's like, people are like,
Everyone just looks at you.
oh my God, that's Jamaica. So no one's gonna like be, they're not gonna be polite necessarily, like,
Yeah.
what on earth? But so that used to scare me a lot because I was like literally in the deep end. But it doesn't scare me anymore. And also I think I've realized how much I care and how important it is for that one person in the CEO role to like, their values are just the most important thing, because their values are going to be amplified. If that person is reactive, everyone's going to be reactive. It's like everyone just picks up on your behavior. And so I actually now feel like I'm the best person for that role because my values are going to transpire to that organization, and it's going to make it so much better. So but that, I mean, look, I mean, this is after, I don't know, 16 years of experience, 15 years. So now I know that about myself. That's part of the journey, right? Understanding who you are and what you really bring to the table.
And do you feel that your confidence went up as you went on and that people trusted this confidence and that's what led them to trust you?
100%. I mean, 100%. It's when I remember when we did the fiberglass turnaround, and this thing was losing, $1 million or $2 million a year. It's only a $12 million business, so it wasn't even ginormous. But like, and I remember the owner was like, can you fix this? And I was like, absolutely, I can. I really believed I can, And he goes, okay, well, what role do you want to play? And I said, and I just remember that moment when he said it. We were on the phone. And I was like, want to be CEO. Like if I didn't have that faith in me, he wasn't gonna have that faith in me. I mean, could have, but like less likely. Sometimes that happens. Some other people have more faith in you than you have yourself. But man, and it wasn't because I've done it before, but I knew that I was gonna be so committed, and I would do whatever it took for it to be successful. I knew that's what I knew, and that was enough for me to say, yeah. Um, but to that end, that confidence came by just experience and trying a lot of
Mhm.
things and knowing myself.
So describe a time that you were very surprised when running one of your businesses.
Oh, good question. I'll tell you an interesting story. So I was in the process of doing a buyout of it was a guitar retailer, very well-known business. And we did this valuation. So I was going to turn it into an employee-owned company, so an ESOP. And to do that, you have to get like an outside valuation. And anyway, so we did one at the beginning, like just when I kind of was starting off. And they call it a preliminary valuation. And after like 4 or 5 months I actually took over as CEO before I bought the company. I will never do that again, by the way. but because I just didn't know how impactful I was. I just didn't know. I'd never done that before. I'd turned around a lot of broken businesses.
Mhm.
If you screw those up, well, people don't care as much because they
Yeah,
expect you to succeed anyway.
exactly.
But this was actually a pretty good business, and so yeah, we were 4 or 5 months in, and we did the second valuation. And I remember sitting there, in the shop, and the business had grown by 20%. The value of the business in like 5 months.
Oh,
I
wow.
was like, I just did this like silent scream. I was like, and the interesting thing was it was kind of bittersweet because I was like, what? This is amazing. Like it just happened so much faster. But I was like, uh-oh, like we're trying to buy this business. You shouldn't grow a business before you buy it because it could screw
Oh,
up the deal. And guess what? It screwed up the deal
oh
because,
no.
yeah. So I was pretty surprised. I was like, it's like, I don't know, this is tangential, but it was almost like in high school once I got accused for cheating on an English essay. I had written the essay, but it was so good they didn't believe I did it.
Oh my gosh.
So it was like one part like kind of flattered, like wow,
Yeah.
thanks. And the other part like what? Hey,
Yeah, like I did this.
I actually did this. So well, yeah, we could really surprise ourselves.
Oh wow, that's an awesome story. So, when you think of your employees, what are a few qualities that make them the best?
So when I'm looking for people, the things that I really look for is goodwill, and goodwill means the desire to give without counting. It's a desire to it's linked to generosity. Like you're just willing to just give, and it's not like everything you do you want to be. Um, you're just in this mode of giving and doing and contributing. That's goodwill, generosity, positivity, joy. I mean, if you notice, these are all personality things. Willingness to learn, willingness to grow. Like those. I mean, I look. There's different types of CEOs and leaders. I'm the type that I just love seeing people grow, and my belief is that look, if you have 100 employees and 100 people are all growing 5% a day or 5%, yeah, call it, like just regular growth, that business is going to grow a lot, and
Mhm.
people are going to feel really awesome. And so that's what I'm looking for is that willingness, because when people have those things and they're paired up with me as a leader, they're going to fly. And that's the people I've enjoyed the most. I mean, all my businesses, people just they fly through the ranks. I mean, the secretary who becomes the HR director, a lot of my employees have gone off and started their own businesses because I can really foster, those attributes when they have them. And I don't know. I think if someone told me these things, that's what these people look for when I was 21, I wouldn't have believed it. I would be like, oh no, hard skills and math, and then especially coming out of business school, but you gotta really enjoy who you're working with. And if you're not really fun to be around, then it doesn't
Mhm.
really matter. You just don't want
Yeah.
to be around you, right? It's kind of really that simple. Um, And that's pretty widespread, actually, as I see with my other peers.
And I think organizational culture is becoming such a big thing now, and especially wanting to work for a company with good culture and having that bond and that connection with your employees. So I think personality plays a big role in that.
Well, I mean, think about it. It's kind of like duh, right? Like if you don't like being at work, you don't want to. If you don't like being somewhere, you don't want to be there. And if that's work and you don't want to be there, well, that's not going to make you very enthusiastic and give you a lot of energy and persistence and creativity. All the things that help someone do a good job. So, yeah, it's great that people are starting to wake up to it. But I don't know, it seems pretty obvious to me.
Mhm. Did you have any revelations about yourself as an individual throughout your journey of becoming a CEO?
Yeah, I think one was just courage. I realized I was just really courageous, and I never thought about myself that way because I just did things. I mean, never started a magazine. Well, so what? Never did a
Mhm.
swimwear business. Well, so what? Like I could, I didn't give it a second thought. And that was something I sort of reflect more and appreciate about myself more. Um, about myself more now. And also I'd say I've like also realized that I'm like, wow, even with that, I realize how sort of weary I can be about sharing my gifts and sharing that openly and publicly. And that's a process, and sharing the things you're good about. And so that's something that I'm actually focused on and working on now. I think I've just been such a doer, in my career. I just do the thing, and
Mhm.
so I don't talk about the thing. But it's important, I think, to share those things and be very forthcoming about what you're good at and sharing that wisdom, and it's owning it really.
Mhm.
And so that's sort of a big thing that I think about these days.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great step towards that too, sharing your experiences. I think a lot of people will find value in this.
Yeah, there was kind of a funny thing. Well, I don't know if it's funny, but like in business school, we used to say this thing where like, those who can do and those who can't teach. And I don't believe that, but I had that in my head for a long time. And I just, and I think that's why I ended up just kind of doing the hardest things possible, like turnarounds. The business is essentially dead or about to crash. Fix it. If you do that, okay, now you've done something.
Mhm.
Um,
The
but you're
hustle.
right, the hustle,
Mhm.
really the hustle, improving through success. But I think another thing that I've really realized is that I'm not alone in these feelings. That's been huge, man. I joined a CEO organization called YPO 4 years ago, and we get into these little support groups, with other CEOs, and we just have like raw conversations. We just get really real with each other. These are people running billion-dollar companies and doing crazy stuff, and everyone feels the same, and
Mhm.
that blew my mind. Is that even the guy who just sold his company for $1 billion or took it public on the New York Stock Exchange, like he's worried about being, or she's worried about being seen as an imposter. And so these things have been really great things to learn. And boy, I'd love for people like your listeners to realize these things earlier and to own it, to lean into it. Oh yeah, I'm a little insecure. Great. You're always going to be in one way or
Mhm.
the other, even when you sell your $1 billion company.
Mhm.
So embrace it. I know that you're not alone.
I totally agree with that. I mean, that's why I create this platform because it's a great way to have people relate to each other and learn and know that we're young, people are scared, don't know what they want to do, switching careers, and that's something that's totally normal.
Look, I mean, you said we're young and we don't know what we want to do and switching careers. I'm talking to CEOs, people who have like run publicly traded companies. I mean, who are still saying, I'm trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up.
Hmm.
And they're in their 40s and their 50s, and it never ends,
Hmm.
actually. And that's yeah, you could pick one thing and do one thing and stay on that one track forever, and that's okay too. Um, Obviously, very few people do that these days, but I think it's just important. There's no destination, really. That's the biggest thing I've learned, is that there's no destination. And even when I sell my business for $1 billion, like, well, I'm not gonna just like ski every. Well, I already do ski every day, but I'm not gonna just ski I'm not just
Yeah.
ski all the time. I'm still gonna want to do something. See, that's the thing. Like even it's just you kind of do things. That's why it's so important to do things you really enjoy, because there is no there really
Mhm.
isn't. I always thought there was. I mean, especially with the swimsuit business, but when we launched, we were in Sports Illustrated, Vogue in our first year. I was like,
Oh,
psh,
wow.
I was like, I'm done. Make
Yeah.
my 50 mil, and I'm just gonna go chill by a pool. But man, chilling by a pool gets boring.
Yeah.
Like nobody ever stops. And so, but honestly, that was a big goal of mine, was just to like, get there, arrive, and not have to work. But not working is not the goal, especially when you do cool stuff that you enjoy.
Cherishing the journey and enjoying the process plays a huge role in that.
If you prioritize that, and I don't know if everybody does, and I think that's one thing I've done really well. um, I've gone for fun and adventure. If I'm not really enjoying it, I could almost not even. I don't really think I could make myself do things I don't enjoy,
Hmm.
which sometimes was problematic. But at least I'm always into it. Like I wake up and I'm just like, sometimes I work too late into the night because I just kind of like doing it. I have
Yeah.
to stop and let
Passionate.
it. Yeah, I'm into it. And I think that's why everyone talks about these things. Do things you're into, because you'll just get really good at it and you'll enjoy it. Sounds so cliche, but it's
Hmm.
probably 'cause it's true.
I totally agree. So, looking back to your 20s, what did you do that you're glad about today looking back?
I, it's a great question. I tried things. That was the best thing I can do. I mean, look, when you're 20s, you're happy to live with roommates, or I mean, you just it's like it's your window to try things and do things and experience things, and it's you're gonna have the most amount of freedom to do that. People are gonna be very forgiving because you're in your 20s, you're starting out. Everybody who's older and more experienced knows they've been there too, and clueless. So I did that. I started a swimsuit business. I started a magazine business. I did a corporate thing. I traveled the world. I lived in a lot of different countries. I just experienced a lot. So
Hmm.
I got to understand what I liked and what I didn't like by trying it. It was like taste testing life.
Oh, I like
That
that. Taste testing life.
Yeah,
Love it.
little tapas,
Yeah.
little appies, and then sometimes you're just like, and then you can order the main meal and really dig
Hmm.
in, and that's why I did my 30s. I'm in my late 30s now, and I realized, boy, I love culture. I like organizational development. I don't love being a consultant. I like being the CEO. I like being able to like really make like decisions that are going to have an impact,
Hmm.
versus like recommendations. So I like turnarounds, and I like employee ownership, and I like really changing people's lives. Like these are all ingredients, and you sort of put all these ingredients into a soup, and you're going to get something you really like. But
Hmm.
how could I know that? I can't know that by reading a book. I had to try things and trial and error a lot of different things. I knew what kind of people I want to work with and what kind of people I don't want to work with.
Hmm.
I mean, um, but all that is part of that journey you talked about, and gaining like real experience.
And then what is something that you would do differently if you could start again?
Well, specifically in my 20s, what I would do differently, I would have bought that apartment in Paris. I
Mm.
was like working for, this is a very personal thing, but I was like,
Yeah.
I was working for a French company. It would have been really easy to buy, an apartment in Paris. But anyway, I mean, I'll do that in the next year or so. But that's what I would have done differently. I think I would have just, especially my mid late 20s there. I think, and I've gotten better at this now. It's like you'll be in. Sometimes you have to sort of see what opportunities you have in the moment you're in it. Like I was working for second biggest French company, had an amazing job, and it's really easy to get loans and big loans
Hmm.
that way. And it would have been so easy for me to do that because of just the positioning that I had at that time. It's trickier now as an expatriate to do that.
Right.
So it's about like recognizing the moment. In that moment, here's an opportunity and doing it.
I think
Yeah.
that goes back to living in the moment and enjoying the journey as you go on.
Yeah, yeah, and I look. I think the other thing is on that note. To be fair, I was working for Dan, and I was doing training and organizational development. And I'll be honest, I used to think it was like the lamest thing in the world. I'm like, this sucks. Like, this is like, that's maybe because I was like running like a world famous swimsuit company before, and I was like,
Hmm.
I just thought like being a trainer was like so lame.
Hmm.
And the interesting thing is, it's not, because that's like a big, huge part. It transformed my life. Everything I do now is training oriented, organizational development oriented. And
Hmm.
I didn't recognize that at the time, and I wish I could just go back and just give myself a nudge and be like, yo, chill, man. Like, this is
Hmm.
like you'll do other things. This is not a forever thing. But
Yeah.
I think that's the other thing. I think that, especially my 20s, like, remember Dan had hired me. They first gave me a contract for like 3 months. And I was like, 3 months? It seemed like forever. Um, all right, I'll do it. I mean, in hindsight, it was like the best thing that could have happened to me at the time. But and actually, then they're like, "How about a 6 month contract?" I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, hold your horses! Like, let's take it a step at a time." And then
Yeah.
I ended up actually signing a lifetime contract that with them.
Oh
And
my gosh. So it was
yeah,
forever.
yeah, I kind of was actually.
Kind of.
They reeled me in, and ended up staying 2 years there. But I'm super grateful for that company and my mentors there. But yeah, it's funny the things you learn.
So, were there any particular mantras that you live by throughout your experience? If so, which ones?
I've always kind of been fixated. Hopefully this is not morbid, but I've always been fixated with this idea of like, man, I can like die any day, and
Mm.
I had some close calls. Like, I almost got shot in
Oh, wow.
Jamaica. Yeah, there was
My
one
God.
day I was at this, so I was running this big construction site, and it was like, and everybody knew it was like stars, and everybody came and stayed there. And so one day they came to, and it was a little bit outside the country, outside of Ocho Rios, and so some bandits literally came to like
Whoa.
rob the place on the Friday for payday money.
Mm.
What these guys didn't realize is we didn't pay people in cash on the site. I mean, that would be dumb. So we people had to go to town and receive checks, but they didn't know that. And that was the one day I decided to not go to work. I actually came back to Toronto. It was right around Persian New Year, and so I left on the Thursday night. It was interesting because the people who were employing me were like, "You cannot leave. You have to stay." And it was like, we're on tight deadlines. I'm like, bro, I'm going to Persian New Year.
Yeah.
This is like, and that day, like I couldn't get a hold of anybody because I called on the Friday, but it's because they came and shot up the site,
Oh my
opened up
God.
shot, stole computers and whatever they can get ahead. So anyway, so I've had a
Hey.
number of, once I used to fly back and forth from Paris to Milan a lot. And once I mean, the plane almost crashed. That like I was certain we were
Whoa.
going to crash. So I've had a bunch of those experiences. And so I've really always been like, wow, I really literally only have today. And so that's just something I think about a lot. How it's guided me is from a quality of life standpoint. Like, I am the opposite of like work like crazy to your like 40, 50s and then go buy a convertible and I don't know, like
Hmm.
live in ski resort. I'm like, nah, I want to do that now, like, or as soon as possible. And so
Yeah.
I've really prioritized quality of life and really enjoy myself. Cause I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be around. I mean, I hope so,
Hmm.
but I just don't, and people are always shocked when someone like dies. You just had Tony
Hmm.
Shea pass away, 46 years old. Maradona, best soccer player in the world, 60 years old. Like, these are young guys and have all the means in the world, but you just never know. So that's been a big thing for me is, it's kind of now or never.
Yeah, I could imagine those experiences were very eye-opening for you and major revelation of, am I doing what I want to do? And if not, I should change that because who knows how long I have.
100%. 100%. And so, like, I've even, who knows, maybe I've asked that question too much. It's just
Hmm.
is like so much is like soul searching or introspection. You can make yourself crazy doing that. But the good news is that it's really, I don't know, like, I'll be honest, I fly a lot of planes. And so
Hmm.
I was on a flight, I guess it was January now, but almost a year ago. London to Orlando, and it was really turbulent, like crazy turbulent. And I do these kind of weird mental exercises. I was like, okay, what if it just went down now? Like, what do I wish I did? Like, let's just like seize this moment, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe there's a few like really epic train rides around the world that I like to
Yeah.
do. And, and I hadn't really finished my book at that point. So I'm like, I really want to get it done. So, but I was like, man, there's just really not much. I don't know, I feel pretty fulfilled. I feel pretty good about what I've done and the relationships that I've built and the impact that I've had. And I think these are really important things, because then you've seized the moment and you've left it all on the table.
And also something that I personally realized over the years is, or months even, is that doing what you want to do rather than what you feel like you should do based on other pressures. And I think that ties into enjoying the journey and truly doing what you want to do.
100%. Like, like I've always kind of this mentality, like I love to ski and it's my favorite thing in the world to do. And so, now I live on a mountain and I can ski 60 minutes, 70 minutes a day. And sometimes, yes, to your point, I'm like, should I go? Should I work? I'm like, no, I want to go skiing. Like, I want to go do it. I
Yeah.
want to go do it for 90 minutes. And I just feel great. And
Hmm.
I'm not sort of, okay, granted, maybe I couldn't have done this in my 20s, but well, I did live in Canada in my 20s. So it's really, as far as you allow yourself, it's your beliefs and it's your sort of subconscious assumptions about what's possible. That's gonna guide And I'm constantly thinking about how to change my beliefs and my subconscious assumptions so I can even broaden that scope and even
Hmm.
make it even richer and make it even more fulfilling.
And even having
But
faith in yourself too, that you can do
well,
what you like.
100%, and it's like a daily practice. You practice that daily. And I don't know, I guess what happens on the outside of your life is kind of a reflection of what's going on the inside.
Definitely. Totally agree. So, and I like to end off my interviews with one fun question, which is, what is one thing that you wish you could learn if you could just snap your fingers?
Oh, maybe how to do like a backflip off a cliff while skiing. Like
That
that
would
would
be
be
cool. Yeah.
that would be awesome, man. Just to be able to like come off a cliff and just do a straight up backflip, or
And know you'll
one of those.
stick the landing.
Key. The landing is
Yeah, the
key. I could probably use
landing
a
is key.
backflip. Yeah, actually, that's a good point. It's the landing that
Yeah.
matters. Backflip is what I can do, but
Yeah.
yeah, soft
The
landing.
last 20 seconds of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, awesome. I love
Well, this was
that.
fun. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. Really great questions, and yeah, really, really great. It was really nice for me to sort of think back.
Hmm.
Not something I do very often. I'm always sort of thinking forward, but to sort of think back of things that have gone well, things that I do differently. I got to sort of get that Parisian apartment on the radar.
Yeah.
No, I really enjoyed this. Thank you.
It's been awesome, and thank you for sharing your experiences. It's so inspiring to see you share experience about all of the careers and different opportunities that you went through. It's inspiring for us, truly.
It's great. I think I would just say prioritize fun.
Mhm.
It's like that was a big thing I learned not too long ago. Like I was just like, could I go live on a ski mountain and ski 120 days a year? I'm like, there was like a part of me that was like, no, 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 that's too much fun. No, no, no.
Mhm.
Let's be reasonable. And I was like, nah.
Why not?
That's one thing I tell my younger self is like, it's okay to have fun. It's okay to enjoy yourself. It's not like, that doesn't mean you're not working hard. There's like
Mhm.
suffering doesn't equal success or growth. Yeah, it's key.
Well, thank you very much. Talk soon.
Yeah, you're welcome.